You know, if you grew up watching public television, I bet there's a certain phrase that's just permanently stuck in your head. It was kind of the gentle sign-off to all your favorite shows. Does this ring a bell?
Right? That line was the final, comforting piece of this whole funding puzzle. But here's the thing. While viewers like you always got the last word, they were never the only ones on the list. That iconic closing always came after a whole bunch of other supporters.
So, who were all those other names? Well, let's get into it. For this explainer, we're going to peel back the layers of that familiar sponsorship script, and we're going to use Clifford the Big Red Dog as our guide to decode the hidden language of who was paying, and more importantly, what they wanted you to hear.
Before Clifford and Emily Elizabeth even had their first adventure of the day, there was this little ritual, right? These funding announcements, they were like the background music to a whole generation's TV time. It was a formula for sure, but it was a really crucial one. And it pretty much always kicked off with this line: Clifford is funded in part by a ready-to-learn grant. That one phrase immediately set the stage, drawing a straight line from the cartoon to a major government educational program. So, what exactly is a ready-to-learn grant? Well, it's a program from the U.S. Department of Education, and its whole goal is pretty simple actually. Use the media that kids are already into, like television, to help boost early learning and get them prepped for school. This grant, it's our first big clue in figuring out the show's financial backbone.
And that brings us to the three main pillars of this whole funding model. See, it wasn't just the government, and it wasn't just viewers chipping in. Public broadcasting, especially for a huge show like Clifford, is this really unique kind of partnership.
This chart really shows you that public-private partnership in action. You've got government funding, you've got these big corporate sponsors, and then you've got individual donors all coming together. Every single piece of this pie was absolutely necessary to get a show like Clifford on the air.
So on the public and nonprofit side, the cast of characters was always pretty consistent. You had the Department of Education with that Ready to Learn grant we just talked about. You had the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, PBS itself, and of course, viewers like you. This was the bedrock, the foundational layer of support.
All right, now for the next piece of the puzzle, the corporate sponsors. This is where the commercial brands come in, the ones who saw a golden opportunity to connect themselves with the educational mission of PBS.
And this list is basically a time capsule of kid-focused products from the early 2000s, right? We're talking cereal, pizza places, board games, soup, yogurt, the works. But these brands weren't just running commercials. They were carefully weaving themselves into the very fabric of our childhood programming.
And this is just a brilliant example of their strategy. Kicks didn't just say, hey, we support PBS. No, they took their own super famous slogan, kid-tested, mother-approved, and they merged it with this idea of the fun of learning. It's just a perfect marriage of their brand identity and the show's core values.
Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting, because it wasn't just about who was sponsoring the show. It was about what they were saying. The language they used was so specific, so deliberate, and incredibly consistent.
I mean, just look at the playbook from Chuck E. Cheese's. Again and again, they used this exact phrase, helping kids discover. And what followed was always a positive theme about growing up. They weren't selling you pizza here. They were selling the idea that they supported physical development, social skills, the joy of learning, and just being an active kid.
And different sponsors kind of carved out their own little territories. So you had Lipton Noodle Soup focusing on the brainy stuff with that cute little pun, invites you to use your noodle. And then on the other side, Danimals Yogurt went all in on the physical, positioning their yogurt as a way to kickstart your child's growth and development. You know, when you start breaking it all down, you see this clear pattern of buzzwords pop up. Discover was all about promoting curiosity. Develop was about growth. Together was for social skills and community. And fun was about connecting the brand to pure joy and play. These were not random words. They were very carefully chosen values.
Here's another fantastic example from Milton Bradley, you know, the folks who made Chutes and Ladders. Their message had nothing to do with winning or losing a game. It was all about the social benefits of playing together. It just aligns perfectly with the themes of friendship and cooperation you'd see in, well, an episode of Clifford.
So, okay, we've heard all these names, we've dissected the slogans. What's the big takeaway? Why does this carefully crafted script matter so much?
Well, here's the crucial point. The funding credits for a show like Clifford were never just a list of donors. They were a carefully built message, a whole ecosystem of values designed to build trust with parents. Every single sponsor was signaling, hey, we're on the same team as PBS, the team of healthy, happy, smart childhood development.
At the end of the day, this isn't your typical advertising.
You never heard anyone say, go buy Danimals yogurt, right? Instead, what you got was this really powerful form of brand marketing, where companies literally adopt the vocabulary and the mission of their educational host. They get to wrap their brand in that trusted, non-commercial glow of public broadcasting.
And that really leaves us with a bigger question to chew on. This unique blend of government money, corporate sponsors, and viewer donations shows us this really complex partnership sitting right at the heart of our children's media. And it kind of forces us to ask ourselves, what do we want our kids to learn? And who exactly do we trust to be part of that lesson?